I was just reminiscing that 1 year ago today, which was 12, 13, 14, unto us a child was born. And his name was Robinson Riley Schellink. And he was a great joy to his parents and to his grandparents, Denise and I, and his our daughter-in-law's parents as well. And what I experienced when I first saw the picture, right after he was born, my son was holding him, I experienced a new kind of love. And that is pretty special. And as much as I got completely caught up in that, and I remember it's just sort of crying and just, feeling this, and I thought, God, I've held a lot of babies, I've seen a lot of babies, we had 2 sons, and so what's happening here? And what I realized is that as much as we know that love is a constant, or maybe we don't know, but we affirm that it is a constant. And we do know that in the human experience, there can be things that can evoke that experience more than others. And that is the good news and the bad news. Yeah? It's the good news in that, when you learn that there are things that you can experience in life that will evoke this most beautiful feeling of love. And I think most of us would agree that it's the most powerful and healing and exhilarating feeling that we can have. It's wonderful to know that we can find ways of maybe activating that in our life. Of course, the downside of any dualistic thing, which it means that if it's something that is, if there's some object or some condition that can create something or bring something into the experience, then there's the absence of that object or experience that can seemingly take it away. Thus, we need a spiritual version of love. We need to know more about love. We need to know more about love than the romantic kind of love, or the conditional kind of love, which is to say that I experience love when certain conditions are met, and I experience the absence of love or the lack of love or all the more pejorative sort of descriptions of the lack of love when these conditions are not met. The stories that most inspire us are the stories of those situations where there was every reason for there to have an experience of the absence of love, or the experience of fear, or challenge, or difficulty, or anger, or resentment, and yet somehow this individual or individuals were able to muster the experience of love. And what we can take from that is not just that these are extraordinary people in difficult times who were able to evoke love when you and I might find it very difficult, if not impossible, to do so. But to take away the fact that they were able to do that speaks to the idea that love is always possible, because love is always present. And it isn't something that is contained within the body. It isn't contained within the mind. It isn't even contained within the heart. It's the very nature, the essence of life. It says in Scripture, God is love. If we take that notion that God is love, then we know that love is not something that could come in and go out. Because the omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent nature of the divine would make it impossible. And yet we experience love here and love gone. Yes? Here today and gone tomorrow. She loves me. She loves me not. He loves me. He loves me not. Oh, he must really love me because he did that. I don't think she loves me. Did you see what she said? Of course, these are human reactions, but it's important to know that we impose these conditions upon that which is unconditional. We impose them, which means they are not there in the purest form of love. In fact, love has no form. Really? And yet we see the evidence of love in form, but love is formless. When we hear these stories of the people in Charleston, South Carolina, North Carolina, South Carolina, whichever, where the gentleman came in and shot them, and how their families came to the jail the next day, some of them, and forgave him. Because love is always present. It's like in this room right now, we don't see it, but there's a certain level of water that is in the atmosphere. And if we cool the room down enough, it would precipitate, and we'd see it on the windows. Or maybe it's warm it, I don't know. Obviously, the metaphor works better on the warming side. So let's just say that, for example. And all these scientists are rolling their eyes. I did really good in ministerial school. Science, not so good. But we can understand this. What we're saying here is that those individuals who can muster this form of love and forgiveness in the midst of the most painful of human conditions speaks to the truth that love is accessible always. It doesn't come in and go out. It can feel like it does, but that's only from the human experience. And we're more than that. You're more than that. If you were just this human being that had to rely exclusively upon conditions being a certain way for your well-being, for your happiness, for your peace of mind, then we would not need to go any further with this conversation. But the reason that this conversation is valid and valuable is because you are more than that. You were made as a spiritual being. And this spiritual energy took form as you. And in the forming of becoming a human being, there is a tendency, a temptation to believe that we're separate from our source. Yeah? To separate from the love that created us, separate from the love that we are. But that's a temptation. It's not a truth. And so every day I get up and I fight this battle, I guess you could say. And the battle is for me to hold on to this truth of who I am in the face of all the circumstances that would want to dissuade me from the recognition and the remembrance and the realization of this divine being, this spiritual being that I am, that has a capacity to be peaceful in the midst of difficulty, has the ability to forgive the unforgivable human stuff. Every day we get up and we are given an opportunity to be who we were created to be, which means to wake up from the amnesia, the spiritual amnesia that we have, so that we can go out and be what we were created to be. That our thoughts and our words and our deeds will be a reflection of this love that we are. So our experience of love is inseparable from our experience of God. I don't know anything more important than this message, because it's the one that we are most challenged in life, yeah? Because it comes down to whether we're going to choose love or fear or any other of the more difficult human reactions in relationship to others. And there are people who teach about religion, unfortunately, who teach a different message and still believe in an angry, vengeful God. But Jesus said this, he said, "You have heard it said, an eye for an eye. But I say, love your enemy and bless those who persecute you." It's the teachings of Jesus. Seems like it should be the foundation of Christianity. And every founder of every of the major world religions has this message. It's about love. It's about forgiveness. It's about compassion. It's about the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That's at the heart of all of the deep spiritual teachings that teach love. And Christianity and Judaism and Islam and all of the major traditions teach this. Dalai Lama said, unless the world religions figure out a way to be at peace with each other, there cannot be peace in the world. Jesus talked about the kingdom of God, and he compared it to a treasure buried in a field where a man sold all that he had to buy that field. This really feels like that. It really feels like that. That we know, right now you're sitting here, you're remembering this, what you know to be true. You know that there is this powerful thing called this unconditional love that's always present. You know this. And yet you feel the tug and the tension and the struggle of that part of you that says, I would have to give up all of these other notions for that to be real for me. He sold all that he had and he bought that field. He didn't sell some of what he had. He didn't hold on, it's not us holding on to some of those really valid resentments. No. These are worth holding on to because I have every right. Wouldn't you? He sold everything. Those people that forgave the killers of their father, spouse, they gave it all up. There were no more conditions. Even that. To prevent them from rising up into the awareness of the love that they are. This is the teachings of the Master. This is what gets you out of the tomb. What was Jesus doing in the tomb for 3 days? I would say he was in there forgiving. Sometimes it takes a while. Especially if you've really been crucified. We talk about surrendering to God, and people don't like that word. Oh, no, I'm strong. I don't surrender. I don't give up. But to surrender to God just means to let go and just love. That's all. And then you become a spiritual warrior. And ministers use your story to teach about love. I want to read from Martin Luther King's speech, Dexter Avenue Baptist Church, Montgomery, Alabama, November 17, 1957. He says, I want to turn your attention to this subject, loving your enemies. It's so basic to me because it's part of my basic philosophical and theological orientation. The whole idea of love, the whole philosophy of love. In the 5th chapter of the Gospel as recorded by St. Matthew, we read these very arresting words flowing from the lips of our Lord and Master. Ye have heard it said, that it has been said, thou shalt love thy neighbor and hate thine enemy. But I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them, that they despitefully use you, that ye may be the children of your Father, which is in heaven. Certainly, these are great words, lifted to cosmic proportions. And over the centuries, many persons have argued that this is an extremely difficult command. Many would go so far as to say that it just isn't possible to move out into the actual practice of this glorious command. They would go on to say that this is just additional proof that Jesus was an impractical idealist who never quite came down to earth. Jesus has become the practical realist. The words of this text glitter in our eyes with a new urgency. Far from being the pious injunction of a utopian dreamer, this command is an absolute necessity for the survival of our civilization. Yes, it is love that will save our world and our civilization. Love even for enemies. Rumi said this, your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. We don't need to seek for love. Contrary to popular opinion and unpopular opinion, we don't have to seek for love. We can create love in our image and likeness and objectify it and then seek for that. But love? Good luck trying to find it. Where is it? Show me, where is it? Can you hold it in your hand? Can you even describe it? Why would we seek for something with this object-oriented consciousness? It's the old example of the fish searching for the water. Have you seen the water? I've heard about this water, and I hear it's the best thing in the world. It sets people free. It heals them. Have you seen it? Do you know which way I go? How deep in this ocean I must swim to find it? Do I need to go to the surface? Are there other fish that know? And then the masters say, it is within you. Very mystery-laden words. Because we're still looking. Maybe it'll be her. Maybe he'll change. Then I'll know love. The worst thing that can happen to us is when we find that person who we are sure embodies the love we've been looking for. Oh my God. We've all done it. Yeah? Relationships are an amazing way of us learning the truth about love. Because they always point us back, if we're at all conscious, they'll all point us back to the source of love. Because to the extent that you and I are waiting for someone to be that embodiment of love, we continually find that that is the dualistic kind, where it's here and then it's gone. Because who of us is perfect? There is this perfect love that's the given, and here we are imperfectly expressing it. That's pretty much what sums it up. But it's not the imperfect expression that emasculates the truth of love. Love is not made less because it's imperfectly expressed. And love is made real only by when it's realized. Realized. Made real in us. And that's why Jesus said, love your enemies. Because you would never look to an enemy as an embodiment of love, would you? Never. It completely brings the responsibility back to you. It's like holding up a mirror. Because not finding it out there, you must go to the source. Whereas with a loved one, it's real easy to keep looking to them. Oh, if they were nicer, then I would feel this love. But what they do whenever their behavior is the way you like it to be, is it just triggers your own release of the love that's in you. That's why we love people that are nice to us, because they trigger the love response in us. But it's always in us. They can't give us anything other than a lesson in love. And the lesson is always, here it is. It's my work. And in a relationship, and I've been in a relationship now for a long time. Denise knows the numbers, I don't. Doesn't really matter. Doesn't really matter how many years. But every day in my relationship with my wife, I get to test this hypothesis. Yeah? You too, yeah? You get to do that in a relationship. And it has not gotten, the lesson has, with all of these laboratory experiments that have been going on over these decades that we've had together, it has become increasingly true what I share with you today. And the only thing that has kept Denise and I together, and she will validate this, I'm not speaking out of school or whatever, she would validate, is because we have understood our own experience. We have understood this truth, that we are responsible for our own experience. We are responsible to getting our needs met. And that doesn't mean that we don't ask for things from each other. But we know that whatever is, I'm feeling loved or not loved, it's what's happening in me. I am the source of that experience. And we now have conversations that start, if they start as an argument, they usually start as an argument, and maybe some hurt feelings, some clashing. And then we usually go away. And then when we come back together, we have a different conversation, and it has to do with what happened. It's more curious than confrontational. And the curiosity becomes, what happened with you? And what it evokes is that we realize that we had a feeling that evoked a response. It was anger or fear or whatever, frustration, and that response led to something that caused us to have a confrontation. But underneath that feeling, there was some unmet need. And that's this objectification of love. That is where the conditions that I have placed on my experience of love that was not being met in that particular instance, which had me feeling that love had gone out of the relationship, or I felt harmed or whatever. And that is this, there is so much power in this awareness. So I commend you to any practice that takes you into this place of awareness where you come to understand what's really underneath your experience of love or not having love. Because that is the ticket home. You will not grow any more spiritually than your understanding of yourself will permit. You like to just leap over all this stuff, but I don't know, not too many people do it. Where you're just suddenly enlightened. And you love everybody. Don't we all want that for Christmas? Yeah, wrap that one up. I'll take one of those. And one for everyone on my list, too. But no, that's not the way it works. It is a progressive realization of the barriers that we have built against love and how we can begin to soften and release those barriers, so that the love that is already present, which is us, can be made known to us. That is the ancient wisdom of love, brought to you in a 30-minute sermon. It's worth a lot, so give generously today, and get the CD, most importantly. Namaste.